Russia has reiterated that it is prepared to host Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky in Moscow for direct talks with President Vladimir Putin, provided that Kyiv demonstrates a genuine readiness for dialogue and that discussions are thoroughly prepared in advance. The statement was delivered by Yuri Ushakov, a senior foreign policy aide to the Russian president, in remarks aired on Russian state television. According to Ushakov, the prospect of a face-to-face meeting between the two leaders is not new. He emphasized that Moscow has never dismissed the idea of a summit and has repeatedly raised it in diplomatic exchanges, including conversations involving the United States. He noted that President Putin has publicly stated on several occasions that should Zelensky be open to serious engagement, Russia would be willing to receive him in Moscow. Ushakov added that, under such circumstances, the Russian side would guarantee security arrangements and ensure appropriate conditions for official negotiations. However, he underscored that symbolism alone would not suffice. Any such encounter, he said, must be grounded in careful preparatory work and clearly focused on producing tangible outcomes rather than serving as a purely ceremonial gesture. The Kremlin aide stressed that the success of any high-level meeting would depend on two key factors: comprehensive groundwork and a shared commitment to concrete results. Without these elements, Ushakov suggested, a leaders' summit would risk becoming counterproductive. This emphasis reflects Moscow's long-standing position that top-level diplomacy should conclude rather than initiate negotiations, signaling that lower-level talks would need to resolve or narrow major points of contention before a presidential meeting could take place. Ushakov's remarks come in the wake of recent trilateral discussions involving Russian, Ukrainian, and American representatives. These talks, held in Abu Dhabi last week, marked a notable diplomatic development amid ongoing hostilities. U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff characterized the discussions as very constructive, indicating cautious optimism within Washington. Further fueling speculation, an unnamed U.S. official cited by Axios said that the parties appear to be approaching the conditions necessary for a direct meeting between Putin and Zelensky. The official suggested that additional three-way negotiations may still be required, potentially laying the groundwork for a leaders' summit that could take place either in Moscow or in Kyiv. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov addressed the timeline for further engagement, stating that the next round of trilateral talks is expected to occur on Sunday. While he urged patience, his comments suggested that diplomatic momentum is continuing, albeit cautiously. Despite these signals, Russian officials have raised legal and political obstacles they argue must be addressed before any binding agreements can be reached. One of the central issues highlighted by Moscow concerns a decree signed by President Zelensky in 2022 that formally prohibited negotiations with President Putin. The decree was introduced following referendums organized by Russia in 4 former Ukrainian regions, a move rejected by Kyiv and its Western allies. Russian officials have pointed out that the decree remains in force, arguing that it calls into question Kyiv's stated willingness to engage in direct talks unless it is repealed or revised. In addition, Moscow has raised doubts about Zelensky's authority to sign long-term or binding agreements. His presidential term officially expired in May 2024, and no new elections have been held. Zelensky has justified the postponement by citing martial law, which has been extended multiple times since the escalation of the conflict. From Russia's perspective, this situation introduces uncertainty over the legal standing of any commitments made by the Ukrainian leadership. Kyiv, for its part, maintains that constitutional provisions allow for continuity of governance under wartime conditions. The renewed discussion of a possible Putin-Zelensky meeting highlights the complex diplomatic landscape surrounding the conflict, While recent talks suggest increased engagement among Russia, Ukraine, and the United States, fundamental disagreements remain unresolved. For Moscow, the message has been one of conditional openness. Dialogue is possible, but only if it is structured, legally sound, and aimed at measurable progress. For Kyiv and its allies, the challenge lies in balancing diplomatic exploration with entrenched political and legal positions formed over years of conflict. As international attention turns to the next round of trilateral talks, the prospect of a direct meeting between the Russian and Ukrainian presidents remains uncertain but no longer unthinkable. Whether such a summit materializes will depend on diplomatic groundwork, political decisions in Kyiv, and the evolving role of international mediators. If you found this report insightful, please like the video, subscribe for more in-depth global analysis, and share it with others who want clarity beyond the headlines.